Hey everyone, Jim Coventry from RotoWire here. We usually do our Sunday morning start stitch stream. I'm off the grid on Sunday, so therefore we're doing a pregame show here and getting some Q&A answered here. Looks like we got the big game tonight with the Ravens and the Dolphins. And as you know, Jacoby Brissett is starting our quarterback this week, so that'll be interesting to see what goes on there. And welcome to everybody who's coming in here. Excited to see everybody here. Keep questions, shoot it out my way. Welcome aboard. See a few people joined here. And in Miami, it looks like we're looking at 75 degrees, humid and overcast. I know that people are talking about rain, but NFLweather.com is not calling for rain. That's a good thing here. Thank you for asking to be a part of the live video. I can't do that because I'm on 3 different platforms. I'm just doing questions and answers, but I do appreciate that request to do so. So basically, it's Miami-Baltimore game tonight. So Miami's in a little bit of trouble. They're beat up at receiver. We know we haven't had Devontae Parker on the IR, and we know Will Fuller hasn't been around forever. Jalen Waddle is a tough matchup. He probably sees a lot of Marlon Humphrey, and that's a short area of the field receiver. He isn't really getting downfield. So this is one where Humphrey probably locks him up really well. I have a league where I do have Waddle. Not really excited about that. It was a draft in February or March league. But anyway, regardless, I'm sitting him. I'm not using him in this game. I know any player can go off in any game. I think Mike Gesicki's the guy. He has a great matchup. Baltimore does not do well against tight ends this year. Historically, they do. This year, not so much. Mike Gesicki's a good play. If you have to go with Myles Gaskin, the receiving end is not bad. And again, welcome everybody who's coming in here. If you have any questions, just definitely dump them in, and I will answer them as soon as I see them. I see a bunch of you got an Insta. Glad you're here. If anybody is in Twitter or YouTube, if you just post, say, yes, I know you're here, at least give me your questions. Make sure I got people here. Looks like I see 2 in here, so we're probably good. All right, John Early. How does Mario Puig see the future through his third eye? Mario's a savant, man. Yeah, I love Mario. Work with him on a Saturday show on Sirius. This Saturday, again, I'm off the grid this weekend. Unfortunately, I'll miss that show. But yeah, I love working with Mario Puig for sure. Great guy. Good question, John. It's the best question we had all night. First one, too. So anyway, looking at this game from the Baltimore side of it, I do see that Sammy Watkins is active. I don't know what kind of a role he'll have. They don't run a lot of like 3 receiver sets and things. When they do, certainly he'd be on the field for those. I do think this is a great opportunity for Marquise Brown. He matches up very well running those slot routes against Miami. Miami's not been a good pass defense, but where they do excel is on the outsides. That's their better. They're not playing well, but they have good corners there. And I do think the outside corners will be problematic for Rashad Bateman and when Watkins is on the field. But Mark Andrews also has a very nice matchup here because we have Miami's 28th against the tight end in DVOA. So no, see Griffin, not starting Waddle. And I got like 12 leagues and I can't remember who it was like I started AJ Green over him. That's who I started. He's off the COVID list. I expect him to play. Marlon Humphrey's going to be on him. Waddle, everything is like 5 to 7 yards from the line. They don't use him downfield. And Jacoby Brissett hates throwing downfield. Once in a while to Parker, he will. So I just see that Humphrey's going to shut him down, in my opinion. And I think this could be a lower volume game too. And dumping off to Gaskin. I think Gesicki, I was just saying, faced the 4th worst DVOA tight end defense. And so this could be a good Gesicki game. I just don't think the matchup's good for Waddle. Don't like it at all. He's a good player, and I think he'll be really good as time goes on. But the short game he likes, it's just a wrong corner to be against. And I don't see a world where they don't travel Marlon Humphrey, because who else would they have to worry about? So it's like, we'll take him out, and it's just the Mike Gesicki show, and that's it. And I think they can live with that. So good question for sure. But again, it depends on your options, right? I think Waddle comes out of this game with like 4 catches for 35 yards. And if you can live with that, I think that's fine. If you're good with that. I think AJ Green could do a little better than that. He's been doing well in the outside corner. His matchup's pretty good this week. And I don't think that, Parker and Fuller, but that's worse for Waddle. That's worse for him, because Marlon Humphrey would take Devontae Parker, and then Anthony Averett would be on Waddle, and Waddle would be in a sweet spot there. But Marlon Humphrey is way, way, way beyond Waddle's class. It's like Marlon Humphrey's still like a top 7 corner in the league. And when you get him a player that's not going to go vertical on him, he'll be all over him. Yeah. So, but no, if you like Waddle, definitely start him. The matchup wise, I just can't stomach the matchup. We say this: any player can go off in any week for any reason. We saw Elijah Moore go off last week, busted coverage one play, and then Josh Johnson's lighting him up. So any player, any week can go off. So if you feel good about a player, start him every time. Trust your gut. Have fun with this fantasy football thing. I see quite a few people here. I don't see questions, but I'd love to answer questions. Otherwise, while we're talking, we're worried about Chris Godwin this week. So foot injury, didn't practice Wednesday, didn't practice Thursday, which was today. So tomorrow, that's going to be really important. Hopefully, he gets at least a limited session in. I mean, the early reports, which were not definitely from the Bucs or from more like reporters, thinking, well, maybe they're just easing him in. Just 2 missed practices. I would have liked to have seen a limited today, and we didn't get that. So a little bit nervy. Tyler Johnson is a player you may want to pick up on waivers if he's in waivers in your league. A lot of leagues he is. Depends how large your league size is and how competitive it is. But Tyler Johnson is a very good player. He performed last week. Antonio Brown doesn't look like he's going to play. He got out of the walking boot. Looks like he's not all the way back yet. If Godwin and Brown were to miss that game, Tyler Johnson would be in for a very great opportunity in this matchup against the Washington football team. That's the second worst pass defense in the league. And he would be like, well, obviously Mike Evans is running a lot of the downfield. So Tyler Johnson could absolutely clean up if they're both out. I think he'll definitely get work if one of them is out, because he did last week when Brown was out. But man, if both of them are out. Chris, got a question for you. Here we go. Let's see what we got here. Taking Brissett over Jackson tonight. Lamar Jackson's in a good spot here. I assume you mean Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's in a really good spot here. First of all, Miami, their outside corners in name, they're good. They are good players, but they haven't been getting it done this year. But the weaknesses are where Baltimore's strengths lie. They struggle to cover the slot, and they struggle to cover the tight end. Mark Andrews, Marquise Brown, check. And so that's one of those matchups that matches up perfectly for what the Ravens want to do. And that gets me a little bit nervous, I think Jackson, using Brissett over Jackson. I assume you mean Lamar. And but anyway, if you're doing it in a FanDuel thing or a DraftKings single slate, then you definitely take the contrarian play, and then you hope Brissett comes up with a big game. Brissett does not have a bad matchup in any way. I mean, Baltimore's bottom 10 in pass DVOA, so definitely that works there. Mitch, and this is on Insta, so you won't see the questions on the other platforms. Adrian Peterson, Dante Foreman, Peoples-Jones, or Rashad Bateman, 10-team PPR flex. So Bateman does not have a fantastic matchup. As mentioned earlier, Miami's outside corners, Xavier Howard and Byron Jones, they haven't been playing great, but they're still good corners. And Bateman is going to be locked up on either of them, whichever side he's on the field he's on, and neither of them are great matchups. Now, Bateman's a really good player, and so we know that he's coming on a bit. But again, as I mentioned a moment ago, the clear advantages for them are Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews because they match up so well. I think this is a decent game for Bateman. I think this is a 4-catch, 45-yard game, and so it's not overly bad. And then your other choices, Peoples-Jones, look, he's going to get an occasional deep shot. He's not going to run the types of routes that are going to get him a lot of targets. So he's the player, if you got an inclination that he's going to get that deep shot. Now they're playing New England. New England typically can limit that. But I do think New England's going to stack the box and make them win at the pass. So I think Peoples-Jones is a dart throw with probability to hit. Not a great probability, but a good probability. So I think now Peterson worries me because we saw 2.1 yards per carry last week. He's 36 years old. He can't be in football shape, and a 6-day period afterwards, 7-day period, that's not going to get him that much closer to it at that point. New Orleans is just flat out nasty against the run. They give up like nothing. And so he and the next one said you was Dante Foreman. I mean Devontae Freeman. Freeman's at a good spot tonight. Look, Latavius Murray's out again. They showed that they wanted to run with Freeman. Freeman still got some juice. And Miami is not problematic against the run at all. So they're very middling against the run. And I think this is a good opportunity. So I would say Freeman is safe. And after that, Bateman's the next safest. If you want to swing for the fence, I would probably go Peoples-Jones and risk like the 0 for the 15. And that would be over Freeman. But I prefer Freeman and Bateman. They're safer. They'll get you bank points. So Chris, yeah. So back to your question, Chris. So yeah, but definitely if you're in a single slate thing, you always go contrarian. Yeah, everybody will take Lamar Jackson. You take the other guy, and like we said, he could go off. I mean, he's got Gesicki. I'm worried about the Waddle matchup, but Brissett finds a way to get things done. Right? He's very resourceful. He runs for some yardage. He'll run near the goal line too. And if the Ravens, let's say their run game gets clicking, well, they may stick with it. So you got a possibility there. Whereas I don't think there are too many worlds where Miami's going to go to a run-heavy approach. I don't think they match up well in that capacity. Overall, the Ravens are a little above average against the run. They're missing an interior lineman, which hurts, but regardless, I don't think Miami's going to lean on the run. I think they're going to have to be a little more pass heavy. So I like that idea. Anybody has any questions, and either on Insta, on Twitter, or YouTube, definitely post those questions up and I'll answer them for you. So Buffalo and the Jets are playing on Sunday, and just talking through some games while I'm waiting for questions to come through. And Mike White's going to start at quarterback again. The thing I liked in his one start where he had all those numbers, and he even had a good drive against Indy. Both teams he played zone. They really didn't give you anything deep. But Mike White showed in that game in a quarter, he'll take what's underneath. And that's smart. That's in today's NFL, that's very smart. And he did that. Well, I don't know in this week. Buffalo will get some pressure on him. And Buffalo, they will play zone, but I think the coaching staff there is going to compress things a little bit. I think they're going to look a little bit more different than the two defenses that Mike White recently played. So I think Mike White gets a little bit done, but Buffalo has been really stingy on defense against the pass and the run. They're not just committed to putting that deep shell. They're committed to moving more of a hybrid approach. I think we're going to see that hybrid approach here. So let's see if we got any more. Oh, good. We got more questions here. Good. Let's see on Insta. We got something here. Brant, pick 2. Henderson, I assume Darrell Henderson, Alvin Kamara, Pittman, or DJ Moore. So we're very worried right now about Alvin Kamara's injury. He's missed 2 days with a knee injury. So that's going to come down to a practice tomorrow. If he misses practice, you probably have to sit him. If he practices tomorrow, he's got to be in your lineup automatically. Now, the next one, Michael Pittman has a phenomenal matchup against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's terrible against the pass. They're good against the run, actually. So what I like here is that's what we call more of that pass funnel defense. And Michael Pittman does command targets there. He's way up on that pecking order. I know Hilton will be back, but so Pittman's a great play this week. DJ Moore, I love him. One of my favorite players in the league. PJ Walker starting. And I don't know that PJ Walker is going to be able to get him the ball. So right now, the thing we're hoping for is Cam Newton takes a week, gets acclimated, and then gets more of the ball and get more back on the map. So right now, it's going to be Pittman and Kamara if he practices tomorrow. If he doesn't, then you got to go with Henderson. Henderson's matchup is not good. 49ers are like top 10 against the run in DVOA. And so it's not a great matchup. But again, it's DJ Moore, we unfortunately have to lean towards sitting him. He hasn't had a good game in a few weeks. And the reason for that is his quarterback situation. I got one more before I come back to Chris. Oh, Survivor, because I have to look at the schedule in a second for that. Justin Vince, this is on Insta, so you guys can't see the questions on the other platforms. Javonte Williams versus Philly. So, yeah, he's in the left side of that timeshare. Overall, Philly on defense, they're an interesting defense. But against the run, they're like bottom 13 in DVOA. So it's a matchup they can exploit. And it's a game I would think stays close enough where Denver can continue with the run. I don't know they want to put – you can complete a ton of passes against them, but if you can also run the ball, and you either go short pass or you run. And I think Javonte is going to get the usual. He's going to get about 11 carries, but I don't think he goes off. I think he gets his good 5 yards a carry, but I don't think we see this game where he breaks, some like last week. I know he had a long run in there. I think he's a decent week. It's hard because he's not using the goal line a lot, and I don't think they're going to get a big lead where they just sit Gordon late. So Javonte Williams is a solid running back too, maybe on the lower end. But other than that, it's not a great matchup. It's not a bad matchup. All right, I'll come back to Insta in a minute. Chris, Survivor picks. So, yeah, and it's a weird week. So you have all these lopsided point spreads, right? If you probably use the Rams, you don't want a divisional match. I'm looking down the slate here and just see what I can find here as we look through these. Man, so many teams are beat up. Oh, my gosh. The obvious one is Pittsburgh. They're at home against Detroit, and this is the one. Even if Ben doesn't play, it'll be I'm sorry. I'm looking at an OBJ question there. Mason Rudolph would be just fine against them. So Pittsburgh would be an obvious one there. Looking down. Indianapolis would be a great play. They're playing at home against Jacksonville. They do at least feel they have an opening to make a move for a playoff spot. They've been better as the season's gone on. Dallas against Atlanta. Dallas had the bad game last week. They definitely have to come back from that one. So I think that those three are all outstanding plays here. But there's so many games that are sketchy this week. So those are the best ones that I see here. Come back to their Justin. Let's see. Oh, you're welcome, Mitch. All right. Michael Carter at all. So it's not a good matchup. All right. Buffalo's been lights out against the run in the pass. Carter's getting work. He's getting targets. And, Buffalo, the one thing I'll say is, even though they're like, top 3 against the run, they're number 9 against receiving backs. So at least that gives me a little wiggle room that maybe Carter will get some targets. I'm saying he's like a lower end running back 2 this week. We hope he falls into the end zone. Hopefully they get a pass interference and he gets the ball near the goal. He has scored this year. Not a lot of upside because it's a really bad matchup. But again, measure your options. But there are worlds. There's a league where I'm playing 3 flexes and Michael Carter's in my lineup. H. Dembski, I'm going to give you that OBJ. Got a couple questions here, and I'm going to give you. I want to give everybody an OBJ take because I did a little video on that earlier today, but I'll give you some of that. Graham, 8 PPR half PPR flex. Bateman, Marvin Jones, or Deontay Harris. Like Bateman he's either going to face Byron Jones or Xavier Howard, wherever he moves, or one of those outside corners. They're not playing great this year. I think Bateman gets you about 4 for 40. Now, Marvin Jones has been problematic because they just have not been able to get anything going with him. He had that 100-yard game a few weeks back, but otherwise, that offense is just not clicking right now. So it's very problematic to trust Marvin Jones because literally his floor is 2 or 3 points, and that's not so good. Now, against Indy, the one thing Indy will give up passing yardage all over the middle of the field. They like to play a shell where they keep the deep plays away. So I don't think it's the week where Marvin Jones gets that long touchdown, and that's what he's kind of banking on. And Deontay Harris, that's really a coin flip because his snap share is about 35%, and they will get him involved. I think Bateman is your safest play here, and he's a talented rookie. So I know I don't like his matchups, and I'm saying 4 for 45, but he could score. I like the other matchups better on the Ravens, but I think Bateman's a very reasonable floor play for you this week and gives you those solid bankable points. All right, I'm going to come back to some more questions. I got one OBJ take. So, look, I'm going to be in the minority on this, and I study offense, and here's what I see. OBJ completely unlocks the Sean McVay playbook. He unlocked it quite a bit with Matthew Stafford, but it's not completely unlocked. His offense, when it's functioning, he has a very strong possession Z receiver, and that's Robert Woods. So he's got that locked in. He has the slot receiver. Since he's been coaching Cooper Kupp, and I've been saying this all preseason, all beginning of the season, Sean McVay always schemes Cooper Kupp wide ass open, and we've seen it all year. Uncoverable because he's schemed open. But now, even though he's performing every week, the safeties still can come down and they can clog up. What Kupp isn't getting is the huge yardage after the catch. OBJ comes in. Now, that flips the script on this offense. What OBJ does is he gives McVay, we know this. He wanted a deep threat. He brought in Deshaun Jackson. He's got Van Jefferson. But the thing is, they're what we call stretch Z players. They're just deep threat players. They do a little bit more, but that's primarily their function. OBJ has the X receiver tag. He can run all the routes. You use him anywhere in the field, but he has the dynamic ability to get open downfield. And what this does, this puts a unique stress on the defense. And what that's going to do, defenses no longer can sneak the safeties up and clog up those lanes on Cooper Kupp. If you remember years back, you would see Kupp catching a pass over the middle, and all of a sudden there's 50 yards in front of him wide open. With OBJ there, this is the biggest boost that Kupp could have hoped for. Kupp's targets aren't going away. OBJ's going to get a fair amount of targets. They probably come at the expense of Robert Woods to a degree, and he hasn't been getting a lot, but they've been on the uptick. He takes the hit. Tyler Higbee with those 4 or 5 targets, he takes the hit. OBJ is going to get targets, but they're going to be high leverage targets. So he is going to be a very good fantasy play because Matthew Stafford, we know he has a phenomenal deep arm. So Kupp is going to go off of what he's done. He is going to have an amazing finish of the season. OBJ is going to probably get you wide receiver 2 numbers every week with spike weeks in there when he fall into the 1 range. Matthew Stafford, all of a sudden, this is going to be insane because the space he's going to see open with his receivers is going to be better than anything he saw up to this point. This offense is going to go off the charts. I bet them to win the Super Bowl when they picked up Von Miller last week at like a 650 plus 650. Right now, those odds got to go differently, and I'm very happy I took that. They may not win, but I like that. I'm going to come back to questions here. Andrew, it's a great question. Bateman, I hope he does. Andrew, I hope Bateman does go off. He's a great young player. Love when young players do well. I don't like his outside cornerback matchups. I was saying earlier, Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews have beautiful matchups. They have very tactical advantages here. If the coaching staff you prepare that way, it's a short week. Maybe they didn't. They're going to pound those matchups. But again, Bateman's a good player. We like him. Hopefully he does great things. All right, Andrew Clark, Devontae Smith or Dawson Knox in the flex. So Devontae Smith's off the injury report now. That's very big for him. So that's a good thing. We definitely like his matchup right now because, look, Denver they had a great game against Dallas. They have not done well against receivers. Now they have injuries in their secondary. I think they played over their heads last week. I think they come down to earth, but that's the one place where Hurts can get them. The outside receivers, you can't attack Denver that way, and I like that. Now Dawson Knox, hey, he played great when he's coming in. He's coming back. That hand injury can't be 100%. My guess is that. And my guess is they're playing the Jets. Now, he could get 2 touchdowns early, right? But I don't know if they're going to lean on him. My guess is, especially after last week's disappointing game, they're going to probably come back, and they're going to come back with a vengeance. And I think they're going to throw downfield a bit more. Knox is a very fine play. I think Devontae Smith has a higher floor, which is why I like him. I think he's going to catch 5, 6, or 7 balls. And I think that there's a world where Dawson Knox catches 1 or 2. So they both have upside, but I think Devontae Smith is your floor play. And you also have another one, Pollard or Ty Johnson. Yeah, look, Atlanta on offense has gotten better. And so they could keep this game. If they keep the game close, Pollard is not getting work. That work that he saw early in the season, it's not the same anymore. We know Ty Johnson's up. We hate Ty Johnson's matchup against Buffalo. But you know what? Buffalo, the one area they give up a little bit of production is the pass-catching backs. And that's what Ty Johnson does a bit of. So I'm going to lean Ty Johnson because they probably trail. He will get snaps, and he should see some targets. Mike White did really well in that one game he played to dump to the running backs. It was a crazy amount of targets to Carter and Johnson, and that's why I'm going to lean that route. All right, let me go back to Insta, see if I have questions here. All right, let's see here. Has Boston Scott lost his So, they love Jordan Howard. They love him as an inside grinder. Their offensive line is very physical, and he fits that style. I think they see Boston Scott as a rotational piece. Now, Boston Scott's going to be out in a couple of weeks when Miles Sanders is back. That could be next week even. And Miles Sanders, now that so early in the season, the Eagles were running shotgun exclusively, and they abandoned the running game. All of a sudden, 2 weeks ago, they changed course. They put Hurts under center, and they're running the ball, Jordan Howard, Boston Scott, and they're doing very well behind that excellent offensive line. They're playing Denver this week. Now, even though Dallas got killed by him, Zeke was still 5 yards a carry, but they had to abandon the run because they were getting blown out. Philly, if they keep this close, they will run. But Boston Scott, yes, it's a shared role, and for right now, and next week or when Sanders is back, Boston Scott will be the odd man out because Jordan Howard will be the goal line back. They want the bigger back there. But you can get another week out of Boston Scott if you need him. All right, let's see what we got here. Jonny Football, Kalen Ballage, or Anthony McFarland if Najee Harris is out. Well, all right, so here's the thing. We really got to just wait till the inactive report comes out. That's going to be it. Because last week, McFarland was deactivated. But I wonder if that's because sometimes the player is like he'd be the replacement if the guy was out. But then the other running back is the guy that you use like in game to give him a break. And I personally think McFarland would probably be now Ballage is a sturdier back. So I guess I think about it this way. They're playing a game they should control and lead. McFarland is probably a better receiving back. They probably want to run the ball between the tackles. So if Harris is out, Ballage most likely runs between the tackles more than McFarland. That'd be my guess. They put the sturdier back in. That's what I'm going on. That's what I would base it on. All right, let's see any other questions here. Let's see here. All right. Jumper 24. Should I start Bateman or risk waiting for Hopkins to start? I'm really pessimistic about Hopkins. That's the problem with the Thursday game, right? And that's the reason you probably got to start Bateman, because there has not been any sign of optimism that Hopkins is going to play. And we know once you sit a player and he misses a game or games, it's easier then for the team to just keep sitting him out games. Now they haven't put him on IR, so that's positive. But we know AJ Green's coming back. And you got to make the decision in the next 20 minutes. So honestly, at this point, based on the data you have in front of you, unless you can go to your waiver wire and pick up another player, Tyler Johnson, because odds are either Antonio Brown and or Chris Godwin's out. If you got the room to add Tyler Johnson, then that allows you to go to Sunday to make that decision. But right now, with 30 minutes to kick off, on the data you have, Bateman has to be your start. And it's not like Hopkins has been lighting the world on fire, and he already played a game. He had 2 catches and had a setback. So it's not like he can't play and have a setback if they put him on the field. So that'd be what I would tell you there. All right, let's see what we got here. Jonny Football, Le'Veon Bell or Mark Ingram. Yeah, so let me have a sip of water here. So Le'Veon Bell, he's going to be the backup. Devontae Freeman's got some juice left. And we saw that. Now, Bell's going to be used as well. He's going to get probably 7 to 10 touches. And there's a lot of merit for that because Ingram is in a similar role. But you see, you have the situation where Kamara's missed 2 practices. If Kamara misses a 3rd practice, odds are he's not playing. And Ingram walks into 15 to 20 touches. And at that point, you got to make a serious consideration at that point to put him in your lineup. Tennessee, look, they're 24th in DVOA against the run. So they're like a bottom 10 team against the run. And the line on the Saints isn't as good as it was, but it's still a good run blocking unit. And so I would take the risk because Bell doesn't have this great upside. So I think you take the chance because, look, Kamara, if he has 2 practices, he probably isn't getting a full workload. So I think Ingram, worst case scenario, gets a similar workload to Bell. But best case scenario, he gets you 20 touches and has a good game. So I'm going to say Ingram. And Wesley, do I trade Dak, Judy, and Devontae Booker for Cordero Patterson and Kenyon Drake? You have Stafford, by the way. All right, so you're fine with your quarterback. So basically, Patterson, if you obviously play him as a running back, and that is huge because obviously you must need a running back. So, and Booker is going to be useless probably this week if Saquon's back. So basically, you got an extra quarterback. You're giving up Jerry Jeudy, and they have so many weapons there. It's not like Judy's going to be seeing 12 targets a game. Cortland Sutton's there. Last year when Jeudy played, there was no Cortland Sutton. So I think for getting Cordero Patterson and you're giving up 2 spare parts in Jerry Jeudy and being able to use Patterson as a running back, yeah, I think you got to make that deal. Kenyon Drake, we never know that his role will stay the way it was the last couple of weeks. But nonetheless, you're picking up Patterson for Jeudy, basically. And I think you do that. Because like I said, Dak, you can't sit in 2 quarterbacks that are rotting on your bench, right? Just make sure you're covered for the bye week. I think Stafford's got one in week 11. Just make sure you're covered there. But otherwise, that'd be a good trade. Or do you trade Antonio Brown instead of Dak in that trade? Well, again, 2 quarterbacks, it's a luxury. And it's a guy sitting on your bench. So realistically, I'd say trade the quarterback because at the end of the day, he's not helping you being your second quarterback. If you want to take a chance, you get an injury. But again, Antonio Brown, if he comes back and he's on your team, if he comes back, he can be a real useful element of your fantasy playoff team. All right. C. Griffin, if both are cleared to play, who do you start, Singletary or Moss? So I got to lean Moss here. And, if they get near the goal line, Moss has been the preferred option there. And to me, that's the tipping point. The tipping point earlier in the season, Moss had a number of touchdowns. And then he missed a little time, and Josh Allen took a little bit. But I still think at the end of the day, Moss is going to get that goal line work. And I think that gives him the leg up because he could score once or twice in a game. And that's something typically Singletary's not doing here. So, that's kind of the way I'm looking at that. Johnny, you got any same game parlay tonight? So in terms within the parlay, if you're talking about the players, we can get the players, and not because they've been hot, okay? But Mark Andrews and Hollywood Brown have the absolute best matchups on the Baltimore side. So if you can find a number on them, either to score, especially for Andrews, you can find a yardage number on Marquise Brown. I would be surprised if Marquise Brown didn't hit 75 or 80 yards tonight. Mark Andrews should be a lock for 65 yards, I would think. It's just the way that matchup looks where it should work for them. It looks like we're not going to have rain in the forecast, so we should be okay there. Other players in this game, Mike Gesicki has a very, very nice matchup. So I think that's one you could take advantage of and get over yardage on Mike Gesicki, somewhere around 55, probably going over on that. He may be the primary weapon in the passing game. In terms of who's going to win this game, the short week always worries me because, and John Harbaugh coaches his team up really well, but it's like a non-divisional opponent. It's Miami's at home, humid game. There's a lot of elements at play here. And I would 46.5. And I know the line's gone up. The line I have is 46.5, and I got that line I think yesterday, so it may have gone up. But I do think it's a great chance to go over in this one because I do think that Lamar Jackson is going to be able to take solid advantage of this defense. And I think Miami can score enough points to do this. But I think it wouldn't surprise me if Baltimore got near 30 tonight. And so I think those would be helpful in the same game parlay. All right, let me see what else we got here anymore. That's the last question there. All right, let's see. We got some questions on Insta here, I think. Again, if you requested me in the video, thank you for requesting. I'm not I got 3 platforms going on. I'm not going to be able to pull that one off. John R. Matt Ryan versus Kirk Cousins. You're right. It is tough. And that's why you're asking the question, right? So overall, Matt Ryan, he has the implosion games out of nowhere. We understand that, right? Overall, though, Arthur Smith is dialing up that offense very, very well. And so that's something that's very positive. And so I think this week, look, they're playing Dallas, and Dallas has a high DVOA against the pass. They're like 7th. But you can get to them, I think. But see, Kirk Cousins, he had 2-3 touchdown games early in the season. And since mostly ones, and he has a 3 in there, but he hasn't had that upside. Matt Ryan's been pretty consistent. They're getting Cordero Patterson involved. They're getting Kyle Pitts involved. We hope Mr. Ridley's going to be fine. We know he's dealing with some unfortunate personal situations. But, ultimately, Ryan – and boy, to talk about these 2 quarterbacks, talk about floor, right? I think Ryan does have a better floor, though. Ryan is more likely to get you 250 and 1 to 2 touchdowns. Whereas Kirk Cousins, see, here's the thing: if for Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook has a phenomenal matchup on the ground. The Chargers are what we call that run funnel defense, but also there could be a shootout. So again, I'm going to say it again: Ryan's your floor play. You want a safe, bankable, 15, 14 points, you're fine. Kirk Cousins has a low floor because if Cook gets going and completely goes off and shortens the game, they may not need to throw a lot. But Cousins, if this game goes nuclear on the scoreboard, Cousins could get you that 3-4 touchdown at 350 yards. So you got to weigh it out if you want the safe or if you want to risk floor for ceiling. So basically, I tell you, if you're an underdog, I think in that case, you go Cousins. If you're pretty closely matched with your opponent, you bank those safe points with Ryan. That's what I would think. You're very welcome, John. All right, let's see what we got here. C. Griffin. Thielen and Damian Harris for Nick Chubb and Devontae Smith. And you're welcome. So, all right. So Adam Thielen, look, at this point, the touchdowns aren't a fluke. He scored 14 last year. He's scoring all these touchdowns this year. His yardage is down. Damian Harris, so he's getting those 14 to 18 touches a week. He's getting in the end zone most weeks. He had those 300-yard games, 1 early and then 2 a few weeks ago, and the yardage is leveling a little bit. So, so basically, and Ramondre Stevens is getting involved. He's played like 4 of the last 5 games, and he's had between 8 and 11 touches, and he is a factor in there. And so, but there's downside because if Harris gets in that game script where they're behind, he's going to be scripted out. A lot of games he plays 30% snap share. And Thielen, again, he's living on the touchdowns, and he can get them. I think Nick Chubb and Devontae Smith's on the rise a bit. Because what they're doing in Philly now is instead of putting Hurts out of the gun and dictating pass where defenses are playing it, now they've got him under center and they're using some play action. Now all of a sudden, Devontae Smith has a little bit of room. And so we saw last week, he had a very effective game on limited targets. And so I think the needle's moving up on him. And Nick Chubb is Nick Chubb to me. And there are very few running backs that could do what he does, and it doesn't matter. Teams key on the run. Nick, even if he's getting his 15 carries a game, he's going to get it done. So I would say the Chubb and Smith side, I would literally say, and I don't do percentages like high. I usually give them fairly close. This one to me is like 65 to 35. I'd be very strong on the Chubb and Devontae Smith side. So I could, I can't really fight myself on that. That's the way I'm going to lean on that one. So Johnny, and Lamar Jackson over and under 70 rushing yards. Yeah, it's always dicey on it because if they don't need him to run, they may not necessarily have him run. And that's why it's always tough on the quarterback. So last time he played Miami, there was a completely different defense a couple of years ago. But that's when he threw that 4 touchdown game and only like 20 passes or something like that. I'm going to say under on this one. I think they could get enough out of their running backs. I think they got the great matchup with Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews. I don't think he has to run in this one. And I don't know if they're going to call a game plan that's going to put him out there to do that if they feel it's a game they can manage. Now, that said, he busts off a 65-yard run, and we're all idiots. But, no, I think Lamar Jackson under this one, just because I don't think they're going to do the design runs as many as usual. I think they're going to have that little number lower. Chris, you're very welcome. Thank you for saying that. Oh, man, appreciate you, Chris. Thank you very much. Anybody else have questions here? Oh, hello from Brazil. All right. Be Quick Trading Cards. Good to see you. Very happy you're here. Glad everybody's here, man. Let's see if you have any more questions. I'll answer them until they come in, and when the questions stop, then I'll stop and let you guys enjoy the game in 20 minutes or whatever it is. Johnny, your entire starting lineup is decimated. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. With injuries and bye weeks, yep. First place standing is in big jeopardy. Oh, man. Yeah, it's not easy. I wish you the best of luck. If there's anything in the waiver wire, like I said, Tyler Johnson's a player. If you're really stuck, unlikely Antonio Brown plays. And if somehow Godwin's out, Tyler Johnson can go off for you. But if you're completely missing a ton of players, one player may not help you. But I don't even. That's one player. I just give you the tip. Brian Edwards. And here's the thing: Brian Edwards has been terrible, right? Last week, I knew last week wouldn't be good. I thought that, with Ruggs gone, I thought that maybe Edwards get more target. But the matchup last week, I knew that with Bradbury, it was never going to happen, which was fine. But they're playing Kansas City this week, and I think they're going to be able to make a statement in the passing game, and I think Brian Edwards gets involved there. So, again, Johnny, if you need some waiver wire players because your lineup's in real trouble, I do think Brian Edwards, he is a good player. He's just not doing a whole lot because of opportunity. But when he's given opportunity, we see the flashes. If you're in a dynasty league, buy on Brian Edwards. He looks the real deal. They just got to figure out how to use him. And maybe with Ruggs on, they do. We'll see what happens with that. And then, Johnny, Justin Fields right now is worth a roster spot. And here's why. It's the running. He's run for like 40 yards in like 3 straight games, and one of them was over 100. But I was using the baseline. And those running quarterbacks, we saw he was a QB1 last week. And so once they start running, all of a sudden they have fantasy value. So Justin Fields, right now he's not going to be, a top 7 quarterback, but he's definitely a player you can start because he's been running. Now it's 3 games in a row he's running the football. That flips the equation because, and I always go back to this, and you guys will laugh at me, but guys and gals will laugh at me, but Tim Tebow was a QB1. He couldn't throw the football, but he was a QB1. Why? Because he ran. And, we see it with Taysom Hill. We see it to a degree with Jalen Hurts. He has some 300-yard passing games in there. So, Justin Fields is worth the roster spot. Anybody else have questions? I don't see any more here. I think I've gotten them all. Johnny, one more. Higher fantasy than Taysom Hill or Justin Fields. So, the ceiling is predicated upon him getting a starting job. But I think Taysom Hill is a higher ceiling because he runs at the goal line. He is like called runs at the goal line. We saw a couple games where he had 2 rushing touchdowns last year. And so that's what he brings to the table. And Taysom Hill will run designed runs where Justin Fields, I think they're mostly like break, contain, and run. So depending on the defense, it may not something he looks to do. I think Justin Fields really wants to be a pocket passer, but now he's realizing the running gives some advantages. So I think in terms of ceiling, again, he doesn't have a starting job, and he may not get one all year. But in terms of ceiling for the season, It would be, yeah, no, and I'm laughing with you, Johnny. And yeah, I'm laughing with you. But he doesn't have a job, but he has a higher ceiling. Isn't that funny? We're saying that he doesn't have a job, but he has a high ceiling. Yeah, so exactly. So yes, but I had to add that. I knew you knew that, but I had to say it. Anybody else? All right, it looks like we're good on questions. I'm going to wait one more minute just in case you have any, and I wish everybody good luck this week. And now, again, this Sunday I won't be on because I'm going to be off the grid. But next week and all the Sundays following, I'll be on 2 hours before kickoff. I put a 1 hour show in here and answer all your questions. At Twitter, you can find me at Jim Coventry NFL. Happy to help you out there. Not this Saturday, but every other Saturday on the SiriusXM RotoWire show from 1 to 3 Eastern with Mario Puig. I'll do a guest call in this week from being off the grid. I'll be on to do my 3 bounce back players of the week. That'll be at 1:20 Eastern. No, yeah, 1:20 Eastern. So if you like that, you can pick up on that. You can always rewind in the SXM app. All right, looks like we got everybody answered here. Everybody, good luck this week. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you and your time and hope everybody has a wonderful day.